Hello, welcome to the Villages, Florida. My name is David. I'm a realtor with Florida Realty Investments, and I focus on real estate in Central Florida, the Villages specifically. If you're trying to get a good idea of what values are here, if you're trying to get a sense of what trends are, what the differences are in prices between the different regions of the Villages, then this is the show for you. Every week we take an in-depth look at this market. You'll get a good sense of where the activity is, where the prices are rising or falling, and you'll get some idea as to what to expect in the short term. If you're a buyer who's looking for a good deal on a property here, please reach out to me. I'll be happy to show you the research we can perform to determine the best possible price for any property that you're looking at. Similarly, if you're a seller, I'll help you determine the maximum return that you can realize in a reasonable period of time. Two things to note. First, all of this information is drawn from the multiple listing service, the MLS. It does not include any information from the village's own internal listing service, the VLS. In this market, there are two real estate marketplaces, the VLS and the MLS. Properties do not appear on both. If you're a buyer, you really need to have two realtors representing you here in the villages, one who can show you MLS properties and one who can show you VLS properties. You will not find an agent who can show you both. The other thing to note is that we produce this show every Monday. Make sure that you check the date to ensure you're getting the most recent information. If you find this information useful or valuable, please consider liking or subscribing. It really helps our channel grow. Also, if you have any questions, you can reach me at either DavidisinFlorida.com or at DavidisinFlorida@gmail.com. Please visit our website. We are adding new material all the time. So if you'd like to find out what's happening in the village's real estate market, stay tuned. We're going to get right into it. We start every week by taking a look at what's happening with interest rates. The chart you're seeing is the yield on the government 10-year note. This is the yield the government has to pay to borrow money for 10 years, and the mortgage rate most closely tracks this yield. The chart you're seeing goes back to a time when the 10-year yield was under 0.5%. It rose to 5% about a year ago, subsequently dropped to below 4, and we look like we're hovering now right around a 7% mortgage rate. A lot of people are looking at interest rates and thinking that if rates come down, that housing prices will resume their upward track. But there are so few people these days who can afford current prices at current mortgage rates. It's hard to believe that housing prices can sustain these levels. And even in the villages where a lot of buyers are cash buyers, the reason that they're cash buyers is because they're selling a property somewhere else, and that person has to get a mortgage. So let's now take a look at the villages specifically. So let's take an in-depth look at what's happening in the villages real estate market. The map you're looking at here is a map that shows you every single active property on the villages MLS currently. The size of the dot represents the size of the home, and the color of the dot represents the price per square foot. The larger the circle, the larger the home. The lighter the circle, the more expensive per square foot. What we're looking at here is the entirety of the villages. And what I've done is I've broken them down into four regions, and we'll evaluate the differences between these four regions. You can get a good idea as to the differences between them. The first of those is the area that I'm calling the North. This is the northern area of the villages. It has a northern boundary of Highway 42 and a southern boundary of Highway 466. It also includes Spanish Springs. And keep in mind on these charts, these sizes are really exaggerated. So the tiny dots that you see are homes, as are the larger dots. There are only 5 scales of sizes. The small dots do represent homes, though. And once again, these are active listings. This is the area that I'm calling the Mid-North. The northern boundary is Highway 466 and the southern boundary is Highway 466A. And I'm going to take a brief moment to give you an idea as to why this is such a powerful research tool. What we're looking at here is the area that I've referred to as the Mid-North, and what you're looking at are current active listings. I'm going to just give you a brief overview as to why this tool is so valuable. What we're looking at here, as opposed to active listings, are homes that sold over the last 60 days in the same area. So obviously by zooming in on different areas, you can get a very good idea as to what's available for sale, what's gone pending, and what has sold, giving you a really good perspective as to what the value might be. As I said, the previous map shows you the homes that sold over the last 60 days in the mid-north area. Here we're looking at the homes that went pending over the last 60 days. Obviously, being able to compare listings to pending and sale data gives you a much better feeling for the value of a home. This is the area I'm calling the Mid-South. We're back to active listings, and the Mid-South area is that area south of 466A and north of Highway 44. And this is the area that I'm referring to as the South. This represents all properties that are south of Highway 44. There is a point I would like to make here. VLS and the MLS are entirely separate marketplaces, and you won't find a home on both. That's the reason you need to look at both if you're a buyer. If you are a buyer in the South, I would point you to the Village's own website. You really should compare the Village homes for sale in the South. Their inventory levels do seem to be higher on VLS in the South than MLS. Here's a long-term chart giving us an idea as to how many active listings there are in the Villages going back 2 years. This is weekly data. Currently, there are 381 active listings in the Villages on MLS compared to 376 for the previous week and compared to only 352 for the same week a year ago. Homes in the Villages currently range from just under $145,000 to $1,750,000. We're going to look at long-term charts for a moment before we start looking at the differences in prices between the different regions of the Villages. What we see here is the median listing price for all properties currently listed in the Villages MLS system. 258.62 the median price per square foot, identical to the 258.62 of last week, but down from the 262.30 for the same week a year ago. Here's another long-term chart. We're looking at the median time on the market for all listings, which was about the same last week as the previous week, 40 days on the market compared to 43 the week before, and virtually the same as the 41 days on the market for all listings the same week a year ago. Now we'll take a look at the differences between the regions of the Villages. As you might remember, I broke them down into north, middle, south, and south. All regions is the entirety of the Villages, and you can see 381 total listings, median size 1,527 square feet, and a median price of 382. In the north, the median price is 345,000. In the south, it's 425,000. In the north, there are 189 homes listed for sale. In the south, only 34. We'll keep looking at the different regions of the Villages. What I'm showing you here is how many homes are available in each price segment in the Villages: north, middle, south, and south. Each of the lines is a price point, and you can see how many homes there are for sale at that price point in each of the regions. One more look at the same information, it might be easier to understand in this format. You're seeing how many listings there are in each price segment in each of the regions of the Villages. So, for example, in the $100,000 to $200,000 range, you can see that there are 13 homes for sale in the north, but there aren't any homes under 200,000 for sale anywhere else in the Villages. In the $300,000 to $400,000 range, the most active price segment, 35 homes in the mid-north, 9 the mid-south, 95 in the north, and 14 in the south. This should give us some idea as to how active the different areas of the Villages are. You're looking at the median listing time for the listings in each of the regions. In the Villages as a whole, the median listing time is 40 days. In the north, 39 days. In the middle south, 45 days. In the Villages as a whole, there are 85 listings that are 100 days old or older. In the north, 45. In the south, only 4. Now we come to a graph that we think is particularly meaningful. This shows us the number of new listings and the number of homes that went pending over the previous week. The graph you're looking at is a 4-week average, and the numbers are actual data figures. Last week there were 49 new listings, down from 53. 48 homes went pending, up from 43. Last year, same week, 41 and 42. Market seemed pretty balanced as it does this year. But looking at this graph, it seems evident that new listings and pending home sales are very elevated, and we certainly need to see pending home sales keep pace with new listings, or else this market will start to see trouble. This graph is a summary of the previous graph. It shows you the difference between new listings and homes going pending. The zero line represents as many homes going pending as being listed. Numbers above the zero line are positive. They represent more homes going pending than being listed. Obviously, that would strengthen the market. Numbers below the zero line, though, represent more new listings than homes going pending. Negative numbers here may be the first warning we see of a weakening market. So let's take a close look at the homes that went pending last week. The median price was 254.75, down from the 260.45 of the previous week and down from the 261.91 of the year before. Keep in mind, once again, this graph is a moving average and the numbers you see are actual weekly data points. This shows us how long homes were on the market before going pending last week. The homes that went pending last week were in the market a median 19 days, compared to 47 days on the market for the homes that went pending a year ago. And to get some idea as to how much pressure there has been on sellers recently, this represents the price change from the original listing price for the homes that went pending last week. Quite an increase in the reduction. Sellers in the previous week only had to offer a median 4.18% reduction, whereas last week the median price change was a 6% reduction, which is substantially worse than the only 5.25% reduction that sellers had to offer the same week a year ago. Now let's take a look at sales. These are the homes that sold and closed last week. They numbered 36, down from the 53 of the previous week, but higher than the 24 homes that closed the same week a year ago. Homes that sold over the last week ranged in price from 170,000 to 695,000. Please ignore that error on the graphic. The next question would be, what is the median price per square foot for the homes that closed last week? 259, up from 253 of the previous week and nicely higher than the 244 a square foot that was in effect for the same week a year ago. And for our last look at the homes that closed last week, this is the median time they were on the market before going pending and ultimately closing. 24 days median time on the market compared to 29 for the previous week and compared to 26 days for the same week a year ago. And unfortunately, this graph is also showing declines ahead. This is the percentage of listings that have reduced their asking price from the original listing price. This week, it's 57% compared to only 56% last week. And this compares to only 54% of sellers having to reduce their prices the same week a year ago. And this shows us the median reduction for all listings in the villages, which is currently a 4.69% reduction. This is worse than the 4.52% reduction that we saw last week and worse than the median 4.57% reduction that we saw for the same week a year ago. That is this week's look at the village's real estate market. If you're a buyer and you're trying to do research to determine a good price, or you're a seller and you're trying to do research to determine the maximum price that you can get in a reasonable period of time, please reach out to me either at DavidisinFlorida.com or at DavidisinFlorida@gmail.com. I'll be happy to answer any questions, do research for you, advise you, answer questions about life in the villages itself, or any other questions you may have. Please reach out to me. I hope to hear from you. Take care.